Do you ever start your day hoping that you're going to start something new, having these huge plans for yourself, such as starting to go to the gym, making a healthy meal for yourself, starting a project that you've been putting off for a long time? And then you find the end of the day or the end of the week comes and you still haven't gotten to it? I think this is pretty common. We've all been there in one way or another. I certainly know that I have. Hi everybody, I'm Danielle and I'm a registered psychotherapist who specializes in cognitive behavioral therapy. In today's video, I want to talk to you a little bit about motivation, provide you some insights on how to achieve motivation, and also some steps that you can take to acquire them yourself. Most contemporary motivational theories would suggest that before you engage in a task, there's some determining factors at play before you choose to fully engage in it. So for instance, you might consider your level of competence in something. Do you have the ability to do it? Do you have the mental capacity to do it? The expectancy of success in something. How successful do you think you will be at it? And also the value involved in it. How much do you value that type of activity? And do these activities align with the values that you currently have? So for example, let's say you're somebody who wants to start exercising. This is your goal over the next year, maybe for the next week, for the next month, whatever it is. So with these theories in mind, some questions you might ask yourself would be, can I do this? What are the rewards going to be for myself? And is this something that will be helpful in the long run? Is this something that will be of value to me in the long run? You know, and even if these boxes are fully checked and you have all these, I can almost hear you saying, you know, okay, but what if I just don't feel motivated? What if I can't find that motivation? What comes to mind for you when you think of the words motivation and when you think of the word action, and when you look at those together? Would you say that motivation always leads to action? Would you say that motivation is required in order for you to take action and to engage in a task that you have planned for yourself? In our society, it's very typical to think like this. It's very typical to think that we need to have a certain semblance of motivation in order to drive our behavior. But what if you were to take these two words, motivation and action, and flip those around a little bit and say to yourself, action leads to motivation? What would you think about that? Would you still think that motivation leads to action? It's so much easier to engage in activities and behaviors when we are motivated to do it, when we have some sort of inspiration or some sort of drive or energy level to be able to engage in those things. But what if you could engage in these activities without having that same level of motivation or drive? Are there any activities or behaviors that you think you have done without having these things? Think of your day for today, your morning, for example. You know, did you feel motivated to wake up at the sound of your alarm clock? Did you have a motivation or a drive to brush your teeth this morning? Did you have the motivation or drive to go to the gym or go to work this morning? Or was it more of just okay, I've got to do this, so I'm going to do it kind of thing? And a lot of times, that's how motivation is. But if you consider those behaviors, brushing your teeth, working, going to the gym, whatever it may be, how did you feel before you engaged in those activities? Now consider, how did you feel after you engaged in those activities? Did you feel better? Did you feel worse? Did you feel like there was no change? Now, think about it. If there was no change, how do you think you would feel though if you didn't engage in those behaviors at all? You know, would your mood stay the same? Would you feel worse? Would you feel better? A lot of times my clients will respond to this last question with saying, you know, I just felt lazy because I didn't do it. Or I feel like I failed again, right? Or that I'm incompetent or guilty or one of these things. So a lot of times we may not feel motivated to engage in a task, but sometimes we can feel worse if we don't engage in that thing. And the reverse is also true, right? If you engage in something that you don't necessarily want to do, you may feel motivated. You may be proud of yourself. So for instance, for me, after a long day of work, it's definitely not every day where I look forward to going to the gym and say, yay, the gym time, woohoo. No, I have to push myself to go. I kind of shut off that need to have motivation and shut off that desire to find the motivation before doing that. And I just go. And what I find ends up happening is the moment I get there, I don't see any change in my mood, whatever. But halfway through, typically my mood will go up. And by the end, I usually feel proud of myself. Like, good, I've accomplished something. And I've also worked towards my values. And this is really something that should stand out when you're thinking about motivation, when you're thinking about choosing to engage in certain behaviors that you want to do. Think about how they are aligned with the things that you value, right? If you don't feel motivated to do something, if you don't have that feeling at that moment and another emotion has just kind of washed in, that's okay. Instead of looking at your emotion, look to your values. What do you want in your life? Do you want a healthy lifestyle? Do you want a healthy family? Whatever it may be for you. Think of your values and make sure that behavior goes toward your values. If you decide not to engage in that behavior, are you veering away from your values? Right? Try to have some more value-guided action when you are seeking to have motivation. Rather than wait for motivation, use your values as kind of your guiding post to what you want to be doing. So here's some steps that you can take to gain motivation through value-guided action. The first step is to list all the behaviors or the areas in your life that you would like to see change. So for example, if you want to change an aspect of your health, your fitness level, your relationships, work, list anything that you want to start changing or improving upon in an area of your life. Basically, this area is for personal growth. The second step is you want to be able to identify only one area that you want to work on at a time. And I stress one area because when we choose more than one, it is so tempting to end up doing so much more than we really can take on at one point. And then we risk burnout and potential failure and an increase of feeling incompetent. So I stress doing one, starting small and working your way up. And we'll continue to talk about this as we move forward. So again, the first step, list your behaviors. Secondly, identify one of those behaviors to start working on. Thirdly, identify your values. What things in your life do you value at the moment? Sometimes values can be a little bit fluid across your life, but I would encourage you to list out the ones that are currently of value to you. Do you value relationships? Do you value your marriage? Do you value your work? Do you value kids, family, communication, work, compassion? I don't know, you name it, there's an abundance. Choose what you really think that you value. The reason we do this is because your values will provide a framework for changing your behavior and starting to become motivated to live a life consistent with what you value rather than what you feel. So write down those values because they will be your foundation and they will be your framework. And the other thing too that's really interesting about values is a lot of studies will show that committed action or value committed action really improves the life of individuals who are engaged in substance abuse, weight issues, and has also shown increased effectiveness in long-term gains for these individuals. So it is very, very helpful to stay committed to your values. And I'm going to be talking a little bit more about this in another video, so I won't go into too much detail now, but write down your values. That's the main thing. Okay, so fourth, effective goal setting. So this is where you're going to set your goals for yourself to start engaging in that behavior or activity that you want, that is going to improve your life across the lifespan. So the first step is, well, before I say anything else, you're probably familiar with SMART goals. So making your goals specific, measurable, all of that stuff. So we're going to take that, but we're going to change it just a little bit. So for the goal setting, for sure, make sure that your goal is specific. So for example, if you have the goal of, I want to become more fit, that's pretty vague. So make sure it's a little bit more specific than that. So say, I am going to go to the gym 3 times a week for 30 minutes. That's a little bit more specific. You want to think about it in terms of how would I describe what I'm doing to somebody else so that it makes sense to them and they could repeat it if they have to. So if you end up losing weight and getting fit, somebody else could replicate it by going to the gym 3 times a week for 30 minutes. Kind of similar to what you're doing. So make sure it's specific. Make sure it's motivated by your values. So again, like I said earlier, your values are going to provide the foundation for what you're going to be doing. So does getting fit, for example, does it align with your current value system? Such as if health is one of your values, then yes, it would. Right? If health is not one of your values, if exercise isn't one of your values, I don't know, then maybe it wouldn't quite as much. So make sure it aligns with your values. Make sure it's adaptive. Does it fit in with your life right now? Would it help you improve things in your life? Would it be worth doing? Do you really need, for instance, to get fit? Like why is that adaptive for your life? If you're a little bit overweight and you want to, sure, but maybe that goal may eat into your time too much. So you want to make sure it's adaptive for that part of your life. The next thing, is it realistic for you to do this right now? Do you have the ability to be able to work out? Do you have the time to go work out, to start getting fit? Do you need to be home more than you need to work out? Is it going to be realistic, in other words, for you to be doing it? Do you have the finances to pull it off? All of those things. What you can do is, when you're setting this goal, say to yourself, okay, how much am I likely to do this on a scale of 0 to 10? 10 being the highest number. How likely am I to pull this off? How realistic is this for me? If it is below 7, then maybe think of shifting the goal a little bit. Maybe decrease the amount of time you're gonna go to the gym. Or maybe decrease the goal in some other way, I don't know. Just make it easier for you so that that rating can go a little bit higher. The higher it is, the more likely you're to pull it off and the more likely you'll be to be more motivated to do it and feel proud of yourself for being able to do it. And finally, you want to make a time for it. Studies show that when you do set goals for yourself, setting a specific time frame and time to engage in that activity and also the duration of time is very effective for pulling it off. You're more likely to engage in those activities because you almost create like an appointment for yourself to get that task done. So if you're going to the gym 3 times a week from 4 to 4:30, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, that's a really good goal to have. It's very specific. It's very time-oriented. You're good to go. You've got that goal in action. The last thing, and I'm going to stress this, is make room for your distress. Whenever you're starting something new, there is going to be some distress. You're going to feel anxious. You might be bored. You might be restless, frustrated because you're not pulling it off as well as you can. Who cares? Emotions are emotions. They're going to come and go. let them be there, right? Keep pushing on. I know your emotions are going to push down on you during those times, but it is okay to put yourself first and your emotions second and keep pushing on, right? Motivation is one of these things that is like an emotion, basically. It allows us to do something, but sometimes we don't have those things. Sometimes other emotions come in instead, but you want to do what you value. Look towards your values in those moments. Ask yourself some questions. You know, is this going to help me? Is this going to help me strive for personal growth? Is this going to improve my self-confidence? If I don't do this activity, how is this going to make me feel? Ask yourself those questions before you stop what you're doing. Because if you get through it, you know, you'll do great. Even if you start small, it's a start. You know, you don't want to just stop. Just starting an activity is the first step to long-term success. So keep going. Right? So these are the 5 steps to being able to find motivation with a value-guided plan. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you like. Until next time, take good care.